we are OpenB. I'm Carlos Torres.
Yeah, I am Axel Huerta.
Credit delinquency in Mexico remains as a problem that undermines the confidence in the financial system to the population. However, this also opened the opportunity to discuss how do we evaluate credit risk. Going to the delinquency rates, by product, we can see that the higher delinquency rate is found in personal loans, followed by microcredits and then credit cards. By institutions, multiple banking, historically conservative, has the lowest delinquency rate. On the other side, SOFOMES and SOFIPOS, with more open admission process, has have the higher the delinquency rates. Conventionally, variables using in the traditional credit risk models in Mexico come from sources like credit scores, economic flows, and use of previous financial services, both for clients with credit history and for new to that clients. To understand the implications of keeping these variables, we want to share you a story.
I like to share a personal story. When I applied for my first credit card, I was quite young and had no credit history. As a result, I was only granted a very low credit limit. However, to this day, I've never missed a single payment. On the flip side, I also heard about a strategy used by a reader-shared driver. He would initially make all his payments on time, and once his credit limit was significantly increased, he would default on everything. After doing some research, I found out this is actually a common scheme known as who's-out fraud.
Well, we can see that incomplete information affects the ability of credit risk models, and it is prone to bias when categorizing users. Facing this, what can we do? Well, an study called Personal Values and Credit Scorings, conducted in 2018, demonstrates how psychometric testing can complement traditional credit scoring models. In this study, a methodology called semiometry was employed. Semiometry is basically a type of psychometric test that measures and undercover the personal values of the responders by asking them to rank carefully selected sentences. The benefits of this test is there is a high emotional and cultural charge. Usually, the personal values of the people remain largely unchanged, and this reduces the cost of customer failing evaluations. The components evaluated in this test were duty versus pleasure, attachments versus detachment, sublimation versus materialism, and idealization versus pragmatism. Inspired by this, we propose a credit risk model that complements conventional financial variables with psychometric variables from semiometry, extracted through a simulator that ensures honesty in responses by adapting the interface to each user using artificial intelligence. Here we can see a prototype. We observe that the sentences have deep connection with the Mexican culture and the instructions are very intuitive. We also use the technique of formulated redundant items to identify the four target components, and the artificial intelligence applications in this case are for increase the speed of words if the client overthinks their decisions and change the position of the boxes when the client gives repetitive answers. AI also will extract the information to be used in this model.
Returning to the study, it used a kernel discriminant analysis for credit risk prediction. In this graph, using the dotted line as a reference which starts at 0.5, this reflects a purely random decision, like flipping a coin. When traditional financial variables are added, predicted accuracy barely improves to 0.59. However, when both financial and psychological variables are included, the model is able to correctly identify nearly 90% of high-risk customers. For implementation, we estimate a 1-year budget of around 2 million pesos. These numbers are based on industry reports, average salaries in Mexico, and previous machine learning projects. Of course, every model faces risks. Misconfiguration is handled with cross-validation and stress testing. Data shifts can be managed with ongoing retraining. Lack of interpretability is solved with explanatory tools. And finance concerns are addressed by subgroup monitoring and model adjustment.
Regarding the competence, we can see there are already companies in Mexico that use psychometric scorings as alternative data. However, none of them has ever used semiometry as one of the components, and none of them has used an adaptive simulator for honesty as our proposal do. This proves that our simulator is an innovative and unique proposal in Mexico. In a diverse financial ecosystems with a lot of options, hyper-personalizations is the key to understand the client. Our simulator goes into the emotional and cultural roots of our clients and understand who they are and what is going to be their participation in the financial system. Thank you.